Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy. It has been a while. I am still Chris, and I am joined today with Dale, who you may recognize from the trailer reaction we did for The Dirt. And if you can see the title down below right now, I haven't given this film its full title, although I'm going to have a crack at it right now. We are going to give our review on Netflix's The Dirt, or The Unbelievable Story of the World's Most Notorious Rock Band, Mötley Crüe. And I don't really need to give a plot synopsis right there because the title pretty much says it.
I don't think anyone ever remembers the full title.
No, it's The Dirt. It debuted today. We were really looking forward to this movie for a long time. I suggest everyone go and check out our trailer reaction video. How long ago was it we did it? Was it like
a while ago now.
Yeah, it was like a few months ago, I think, or something like that, or like a month ago.
And I've even got Mötley Crüe. I didn't even mean to put this on.
See, I put mine on because of this. This is the only Mötley Crüe t-shirt I own. You just turned up in that.
Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what I'm wearing.
I need to bring up the chat as well, just in case anyone is tuning in. So forgive me if you hear an echo right now. We're so not prepared for this. Like, I haven't done this in like 2 weeks.
I do like how this time around I can see my hair though. So
there we go. Let's bring up the side chat. So while I'm sorting this out, you talk about your experiences reading The Dirt.
Like, to me, this was like this was like a Bible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, it was a very like, from reading this, it was everything. I go, that's the kind of thing you want to do. You know what I mean? Being in the band is like to me. I mean, from the beginning, yeah, being in the band is being in the band. But then this was very sort of like, this is the kind of life you want to live. You want to have fun. You know what I mean? This was, yeah, to me, this was just everything. And to see it put into a movie, I was really, really looking forward to this happening. And, you know, really excited. Like, all week, I was just sitting there thinking, when, you know, is this going to happen? It was something to look forward to the whole time. And the fact that it's now been done after 13 years or whatever. How long have we been promised?
Because you compared this to Kingdom Hearts 3, didn't you?
Yeah.
In that we've been waiting for so long for this to come out. The book came out in 2001, I think, didn't it, originally?
Yes.
This is the anniversary edition, so this came out in 2011. But even then, still, like 8 years later, we finally get it.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm quite impressed with how quick they did it in terms of when they. Obviously, there was talks about it for ages. Then there was constant, we're going to do it. Then they didn't. Then we're going to do it. Then they didn't. You know, there was constant that. But then as soon as they went, oh, we've got the cast. It's not like, oh, we've got the cast, we're going to do it. Then it was delayed by this. It got done pretty quickly. There was no delays or anything, so it was pretty good.
And especially with Netflix being what it is, Netflix is a huge platform now. Even with the Oscars, for example, Roma, and I know that Roma got a cinematic release, like a short limited release, I think, and probably some smaller cinemas screened it. But that was a powerhouse for Netflix. So Netflix are getting like Oscar-nominated movies. Now, I'm not saying that The Dirt is an Oscar-nominated movie, but I'm saying that it is a legitimate platform now where, I mean, especially in our friendship group on Facebook, all we could see was so-and-so is watching The Dirt, Like, everyone was watching this movie. And Netflix gives you the opportunity to do that because it's, you know, it's relatively cheap, it's easily attainable, and it's a great platform to watch stuff like that.
I do think it's going to be bigger now, the fact it's on Netflix, rather than if they went through, I think it's Paramount they had before, or whatever. Like, if they went through that, I think this is going to make it a lot bigger because everyone's obviously tuned in. Like, there were people that literally were like, oh, it's up 7:30 because I knew that's the UK time it came out. There were people literally doing that. Whereas if it was cinema, there'd be people, everyone would go tonight, then it fizzles out. Whereas Netflix, there are a lot of people that are going to give it another watch. There are going to be a lot of this, and it's easier to find. I do think Netflix is definitely the best way to go for this sort of thing.
Yeah, and I know that Mötley Crüe obviously have a huge fan base. If it had been a cinematic release, I don't know how well it would have done.
Yeah.
I think Queen's a lot more palatable, for example. We're going to be comparing this movie a lot to Bohemian Rhapsody. We did that in our trailer reaction, but it makes sense because that's a very similar style movie.
They're both about bands, of course, but Queen is they're a band that you walk down the street and then if sort of random person go, what music you listen to? You go, Queen. They go, oh, okay. And they know who that is. You know, Mötley Crüe are more of a, so you say Mötley Crüe, people are more likely to be like, oh, who's that? You know, Mötley Crüe are more famous amongst metal fans and stuff like that, whereas Queen is more of a household name. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Now, one thing that I was surprised about, I mean, I guess it probably would be, the director of this is Jeff Tremaine. He's directed the Jackass movies and all the sort of spin-off movies surrounding the characters from that, like Bad Grandpa. So with that director in mind, you kind of know what kind of movie you're getting into with this one. And I was actually really pleased to hear from you that this movie was an 18.
Yeah.
which is the only certificate that this movie can be. But we were also talking about this, and I think this review is probably going to be a bit scattered. We're going to try and keep it as concise as we can, but we don't have a plan for this thing. We're just sort of going off the cuff right now.
Thing is, with the age rating, it's one of those things of like, for instance, you remember when the first Deadpool movie came out? There were people that were saying, "Why is it 15?" Like, you know, I mean, I know how Deadpool, you know, I think Deadpool should be an 18. I personally was completely up, like Deadpool was a 15. I was like, I don't see any reason for it to be an 18 personally. But it's an example of, I know a lot of people were being like, you know, this should be an 18 because of this, and this. This is another example, I say, in my mind, of something that if it was a 15, I'd be like, why? Because of this, and this. If that's not included, that wouldn't, you know what I mean? It's another one of those things. It might have conflicting views if it was a 15. And that's the other thing about it. If it was a cinematic release, it was an 18. Very limited people can get in. On Netflix, it's an 18. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things. I think Netflix also gave it that more of a chance to be everything it wanted to be.
Now, the question I think that, well, I'm going to ask you, but I know my opinions on it as well, is, was the certificate earned? Now, when I say that, I mean, the opening shot of this movie is a chick getting eaten out at a party and squirting across the camera. Like, that is the opening scene of the movie, spoiler alert.
Yeah, and it's, as much as it screams 18 from that point, it was also an instant, like, can tell the guy that, you know, it was Jeff Tremaine doing it. You know what I mean? It was an instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are tits. There is considerable amount of drug use, which you would expect if you know anything about Mötley Crüe, or not just Mötley Crüe, but pretty much every single existing band at the time was probably on drugs like this. I don't know whether these were the most extreme. We do get some other rockers in the movie. You do get cameos from David Lee Roth and Ozzy Osbourne, which are also feature in the book. But I couldn't help shake the fact, like, that's a great example you just brought up with Deadpool there, where it feels very juvenile in terms of its stuff, which I know inherently they were, but it didn't feel like it earned an 18 rated certificate by really delving into stuff. And I think that's a criticism that we both have with this movie, is that, like Bohemian Rhapsody, and I don't know if Rocket Man's going to be the same, like many of these music movies, it's a bullet point checklist of the things that happened, but it doesn't really zone into anything with any kind of substance.
I think the thing about it earned its 18 rated certificate on more of a comedy level, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like you saw, the tits, the everything, but it earned it in more of a jackass way. You know, you saw that rather than for instance, there are bits in the book that aren't included. Like, when I say the bits in the book that aren't included, I mean like little things that I'm not saying needed to be included, but bits that, if you're going to give it an 18, could have put that in as well. If that makes, you know what I mean? So there were a couple of things that I think they not shied away, you know what I mean, but sort of shied away from, to give it a more, well, what's the point of making that as dirty as possible? That's, you know what I mean? So it sort of earned the 18 rating, but I do think if they were going to give it that, there could have been a little bit more involved.
And I guess that's sort of my biggest problem, is that I love this book. This is one of my favorite books. I have only read it once. I don't know how many. Do you know how many times you've read it? Or?
I think through, I've probably read it once through, but I think it's one of them that I've always, had by me, looked at and go, I'm going to read this bit again because that's funny. And there were even particular bits, small bits, that there was one particular that did make it to the movie, but small bits that I thought, I hope that's in there just because it's a funny moment. I remember that and I want it to be in there. You know what I mean? So it's always been one of them. It's by me and I go, actually, I want to read that chapter again. So I remember that happens, and that's quite funny.
Now, obviously, I'm a Mötley Crüe fan, but like, you absorb this shit. Like, you are. This is why I'm so glad that I've got you on the review for this, because you know pretty much everything there is to know about Mötley Crüe. You certainly know a lot more than me. You were picking up on things.
That's the other thing that I think also that goes with, like, for instance, I can watch that movie and there'll be bits I go, actually, don't like that because of that, don't like that because of that. Various little things where other people go, that's perfect. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, as I say, Bohemian Rhapsody, an example. For instance, with all these movies, you're going to get someone like in Bohemian Rhapsody, obviously, Freddie Mercury is not played by Freddie Mercury, so he's going to look a little bit different. You're going to get, like, it's based on people from real life, played by people that obviously aren't themselves. So with that, again, so it's going to be, the closer you are to it, there's going to be little points that you might pick out, whereas someone else might go, no, I don't see an issue with that. Does that, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, yeah, so it is something that, yeah, definitely, I did really absorb.
Now, a big thing I want to talk about with this movie is the runtime, or how fucking short this movie is. I think it's an hour and 48. Is it? Is it an hour and 48?
Yeah.
It's not even 2 hours. Bohemian Rhapsody, for some frame of comparison, was 2 hours 13 minutes. This movie could have very easily been 2.5 hours. There is so much in this book, and there is a lot that they glossed over, a lot that they missed out entirely. And especially the ending as well. It's almost like they ran out of money with this film, in that the ending does just kind of drop off a cliff and just immediately end.
Yeah, I do think the biggest issue, especially I had with the movie, was the runtime, and I do think there was a lot missing here and there. It did its job, like, you know what I mean, it did its job. It was fun. I did like the movie. You know, it was definitely still a really good movie, but I do think there was a lot that I thought, you know, I mean, say you get Harry Potter, for instance. They're long movies based on long books, and there are points a lot of people might say could have included that.
Yeah.
But then you also look at it from another point of view and go, but would you have really wanted the 3.5-hour movie? With this, the only thing is, you go, could have put that in, and then you thought, well, you had time. Like, I don't know why it was as short as it was, really.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the reasons for that. Maybe they thought that was a palatable running time. I do think that because of that, they did kind of hamstring themselves in that they had to fire through a lot of stuff quickly. I mean, a lot of stuff happens in this book. Hell of a lot of stuff happens in this book. The book is written from, each chapter is from one of the members of the band, and it sort of, you know, really goes into their head and their thought process during these times. Maybe a mini series of this would have worked, in that you could have had an episode per person, but then I think you would have lacked that.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of miniseries. I've heard a few people say a couple of things about, you know, that sort of thing, and I prefer the idea of a movie with that, rather than, because it gives you a whole. And obviously, they were a big glamorous band, you know, they were a big Hollywood, you know, big successful.
Yeah.
And that's what a movie brings. When you get a mini series, it brings more of a little chapters here and there. Whereas otherwise you get big, and that's what they were. So I do think a movie would have still been better.
I think there's a lot we need to talk about with this movie. I think a big thing is the cast that we need to talk about. Did you think there were any particular weak links in the main four? What did you think to the main cast?
No, I really liked the main cast. I was a bit skeptical here and there. As terms of looks wise, I thought they looked really, you know, they nailed it a lot. I mean, Machine Gun Kelly as Tommy Lee, he didn't, like, as I say, the looks kind of, you know, nailed it a lot. But with him especially, it wasn't just that, like the way he acted, everything. I thought he was a perfect fit. You know, I thought a lot of them were. The one that from the trailer I had my bit of, you know, I was a bit skeptical about was mainly Mick. Only because, not the way he acted. I mean, he looked all right, but there was a couple of screenshots that looked a bit, I thought he looked happier than I thought he would. You know, happier than I thought Mick Mars would have necessarily looked in that shot, where he looked more angry. Or the costume, I thought, didn't really look as much like him. But after watching the movie, he did nail it perfectly. There was a couple of things here and there. I think, in my personal opinion, it was there was the weakest bit there. But again, I don't know whether that's just because I'm closer to it in terms of I watched all their music videos like hundreds of times, or I don't know whether it's that. But overall, I would say the cast is really great. I'd say Machine Gun Kelly sticks out the most with, he was incredible performance. And especially, like, for instance, like even when you see in the trailer him jumping around the hotel and stuff, like, that was instantly, I saw that and I was like, I couldn't have picked anyone better. Yeah. So yeah, I do think that was really good.
The movie focuses mostly on Vince Neil and Mick Mars. Nikki Sixx. They're the main two, and then Mick Mars and Tommy Lee, they're in the movie a lot, but they don't really get as much to do. There isn't really, in the book, there is a lot of substance to them, and there's obviously a lot more that it goes into in the book, but unfortunately, in this film, they are kind of glossed over. They're very much background characters, I would say, especially with Tommy Lee. Like, I mean, we talked about this, where the movie ends, that's not where the book ends. The book goes on way past that. They don't even touch on the Pamela Anderson stuff. I don't know whether that was, you know, let that be the past. We don't need to keep bringing that up. Everyone knows about it. But I do think that there's where Tommy Lee goes to jail, that's not in the movie.
The thing about that is, though, when we watched it, and then obviously we mentioned that, the thing you brought up was a very good point, was, again, Bohemian Rhapsody. they thing is, Bohemian Rhapsody did it in an inaccurate way. So they had obviously the AIDS and stuff came before, like, you know,
2 years before he was actually diagnosed.
So, yeah. And then they ended it on Live Aid, so they ended it on a high. And everyone makes the point of, like, you know, you, for instance, made that very valid point of the movie ends on a high. Why would you end a movie on a low? You know what I mean? So from a movie point of view, it worked very well. Might have been inaccurate, but movie point of view, that's the perfect way to do it. This, as I say, you made the same point, which makes perfect sense because obviously it deals with the whole Vince Neil left the band for a bit. Doesn't go into huge detail like you know, like you think, but it dealt with it, and you didn't need it to go into huge detail. You didn't need half an hour of, you know, he's not in a band, he's doing this. You didn't need that. It worked very well, and then he got back in. Then they had a little bit go on. And, you know, Mötley Crüe continued to play for 20 years. They continued that a little bit. But then if you went into another low of Tommy Lee left, and then this happened, and then, but they got back together. Yes, it'd be up and down. The only reason I think they could have included it is, again, the runtime. But as you said, it's ending on a high, which from a movie point of view, yes, it works the best.
Yeah, narrative structure-wise, if you break the band apart, and even Bohemian Rhapsody did this, probably every band movie that's going to come out will go for this because most bands tend to go through a breakup at some point or a tiff.
Relationship, really.
Yeah, it is. So with Mötley Crüe, they break apart, they get back together, and then if you did go by the book, they break up again and then get back together again. You kind of repeating the same narrative arc twice. Now, in life, you really don't get a narrative arc because stuff happens at an unpredictable pace. Whereas a movie, when you're stripping it back to an actual story that you're packaging into a product and sending it out there for people to watch, you do kind of need that solid finale. And if you break up and get them back together, that will naturally feel like a conclusion.
It's like anything. It's like if I was sitting and write a book on my life or what happened, I mean, it'd be very boring for one. But if I was to sit here and write a book on my life and what happened, and here's the ups here, here's the downs here, here's the ups here, you know, people get bored reading it because it's not formulated to appeal to people. If I just wrote down every bit that happened, it's formulated in a way of just what happened. The difference is when you write a story, when you make a movie, it's formulated to what you think the people might like. So you will have so say you're going on something completely fiction, that's how things work in movies. You take out the boring bits. You don't, you know, have someone in a movie sitting there on a 10-minute phone call that made absolutely no point, and then you go, what was the point in that? You don't do that because no one cares, no one wants to see it. So obviously there are going to be things that you go, okay, that's not how it happened, but I get it because it's more entertaining as a movie. You know what I mean?
And I mean, we've just had a comment from Sean Stout. Thanks for the comment, by the way. He's put, some people are saying it's too cliched. I would have preferred more of a drama. And you know what? I would kind of say it is cliched.
No, I agree, yeah.
Not to say that it doesn't go into some serious stuff. You've got Vince Neil's daughter, Skylar, who dies of cancer. You've got obviously Nikki Sixx is ODing, so it goes into, like, you know, horrible use of drugs and everything like that, and it does show them breaking apart like that. But we did say that the decline of them is kind of glossed over again very quickly. We did really want to see that, you know, breaking down as, you know, this constant life of partying and drugs and alcohol and women. Yes, you do get moments of that, but you don't really feel the effects of it. And I think that that's sort of, if you want my one sentence review of this, is that yes, you get everything, but you get no substance. You don't really feel the heart of it. You don't really feel much emotion towards what's happening. And in terms of the cliche dialogue, it did get a little bit like that for me, especially in the final scene, where it's like, oh, Mötley Crüe is about family and we're together and we're bonded, and it did feel, you know, I mean, what's the moral for today's episode, kids, kind of thing at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice, you know, ham sandwich with some lettuce in, you know, it's nice and it does the job, and it's actually really nice. You might have it again, you know what I mean? It's not something that I think, as I say, like, for instance, it's not a drama. It's not something that you go, actually, I really felt for that here. I really felt for that here. You know what I mean? Because, but again, I still think it's because of the runtime. I think if if it went 2.5 hours, for instance, they could have included more drama here. It could have been very, obviously, there's a lot of comedy about it. It's very funny. It's very, you know, sex, drugs, rock and roll, everything. They could have had that, and then getting into more of a drama, change the tone of it. They could have done that here and there if they had more time. So I do, as I say, again, I think the biggest weakness is the runtime.
Yeah. We're going to wrap up soon because I don't really know how much more I can say about this movie. One thing I will say is, though, and we said this right from the beginning. Now, I love this film. Don't get me wrong; it's not inherently a good movie, but Rock of Ages with Tom Cruise. It's a very, very cheesy film. It's very much a guilty pleasure of mine. But it's set in the 80s and it's got 80s music, so I have to like it. But similar to that movie, when you look at this film, it doesn't feel authentically 80s. Now, I know it's not going to be because obviously it's a 2019 movie. They've got some like digital grain going on in the film to make it look like it is from that time period, or to make it look like it was shot on film, although it's digital grain added. But like the women in it, they don't look, because, you know, each decade has a defining look for people, whether it's fashion or whatever it happens to be. But the women in this movie look contemporary, and there were very few moments in this. Well, actually, there weren't really any moments in this movie where I watched it and thought, I'm suspending my disbelief to imagine this is taking place in the 80s. It all did feel very modern. You called out one thing where Tommy Lee goes like, "Oh, that's sick," and that like I don't think that. Well, I mean, people may have said it in the 80s. I don't know, but it's not. That seemed more of a modern-ish thing, and there were elements of that all the way through the movie. It felt very. It felt like people in the 2010s imagining what the 80s would be like, and it didn't feel authentic in that regard.
Yeah, it was. You know, I do agree. It was even when it came down to their houses and what they looked like. There was a lot of. It looked like, you know, a modern beach house or something that you'd see today.
Yeah.
And as I mean, I weren't alive then. I don't know. You know, people could be sitting there going, "Yeah, but that's exactly what it looked like." That's fine. But to me, it did feel very, you know, like, for instance, Vince Neil's house throughout, nice white look. It looked amazing. But then I also at the same time looked at it and thought, would it looked very modern still? And there was one bit in particular, I can't remember exactly where it was, but like, I think people were holding up signs, and I was like, it looks quite 90s.
Yeah.
Where it looked a bit end of 90s, where it should, you know what I mean, in the wrong sort of bit. So but I do think, again, it was, of course, directed by Jeff Tremaine. It was, I think, supposed to be just a fun Jackass kind of, you know what I mean? I do think that's what it went for in the end, which, you know, it wasn't disappointing that that's the way it went. It was good because he was a perfect director for it. But I do think it's one of those things that I think if you go in thinking I expect this, and this, it's don't go expecting too much, because I do think there wasn't as much substance in it, actually, you know what I mean?
And you mentioned Jackass there. There are moments in this film, you can see them in the trailer, where you could imagine Johnny Knoxville and the rest of the Jackass crew doing these things, especially the hotel scene, like running around like Steve-O kind of underwear, and like chucking TVs out of windows, and just general, you know, idiocy.
Like the Ozzy Osbourne scene, like that was like something that I look like. Actually, you know, it did actually happen apparently. Like, you know, with the Snot and the Ants, and you know, the peeing on by the pool. You know, that all apparently, you know, actually happened and stuff. But it was very obviously that's something they would do in Jackass. So since that's something they do in Jackass, to get their, you know, the same director, it's like, well, that works perfectly because that's something they would do anyway. So he was still the best director for it.
It's a double-edged sword, because I do agree with that in terms of if you want that complete balls to the wall, completely insane antics, then, you know, Jeff Tremaine is the best director for it. But I kind of wanted some substance to go along with that. And, you know, there are moments where it does feel heartfelt, where they're trying something, especially the Vince Neil's daughter scene, but nothing ever like really followed through or hit home as much as I was hoping it would. So
I do think I think as it's on Netflix, obviously it's streaming, and they released 4 new songs. That's obviously all streaming. Okay, they've got a CD of the soundtrack, but you know what I mean? It's not like they released a new album. I do think since they're trying to get all their fans to sort of go towards streaming, they're trying to bring in new fans that way as well. Like, for instance, we went to watch it. As soon as we turned on Netflix, that was the first thing, giant there, The Dirt, right? I mean, the fact that it was my Netflix might have just been a weird, you know, coincidence thing. I mean, like, you know, a weird thing where you see an advert, it's like, oh, I'm just thinking of that. Might have been some weird, you know, godly thing that I have no control over, but the point is that was there. It shows, it gives new fans, you know, it gives a leeway for new fans, you know what I mean? So to give them the just over an hour and a half movie, they go, oh, that's really interesting, that's cool. Whereas say they got a 2.5 hour movie with everything we thought should have gone in it, after an hour they might have turned off and thought, okay, whatever. but it was just fun throughout. So I do think that's probably why this all happened.
Get more fans in.
Yeah, I do think that's why it happened like that.
And you know, Nikki Sixx did have a lot of involvement with this film, so maybe that is one of the reasons. I don't know. I hope if it does bring in new fans to Mötley Crüe, if it does introduce more people to their music, then that's fantastic. Because not to say that 80s hair metal fans, you know, it's like there isn't any. There are plenty, but it would be nice to get some more, bit more traction with the whole 80s scene, maybe. We've had confirmation in the comments, by the way, from JX. Sick was first used to mean really good in South London in the 90s.
Well, there you go then. So
they fucked up.
there was actually one inaccuracy as well. What song was it? I did. You know, it was in the Backyard Party where they meet Vince Neil. Aside from that being an inaccuracy of where they met him, like, because you know, it's not, you know, there are little inaccuracies that aren't a big deal because. But there's one thing that bugged me. Can't remember what the song was exactly, but the song he was singing was not actually out at the time that they met him.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, so whatever song he was covering at that point, because I remember sitting, I was like, that song wasn't actually, can't remember what it was now, but he was doing a cover of a certain song, and it was obviously 1981 when they you know, formed and everything. The song was not out then. So that was an accuracy that I was sitting there just going, no, that's not like, why? No.
Yeah, there's a...
Stuff like that just always bugs me. But there's certain things that probably there are millions of people out there that go,
no one's going to notice.
Yeah, no one's going to notice. There are millions of people that go, I noticed, but I don't care. But they're little things that bug me. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like, for instance, if you have your light switch, it's a bit crooked. You sit there going, why? You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. So, you know what I mean? It's a petty thing, but it's things like that.
You had another one. Oh, God, what was the guy's name who dies in the car?
Oh, Razzle. Yeah.
Razzle, with sporting a Dick Van Dyke style Cockney accent, and we googled it, and the guy was from like the Midlands, like Coventry area. We've probably got US viewers watching. I think we've got one UK viewer. They know where we're talking about.
I don't know much about Hannah Rocks like that much at all because I was never like a huge fan, so I could be completely wrong. He might have had that accent. I don't know, but I think personally, because he grew up in the Midlands and stuff. I do think it was given that to portray that he was basically British. But I could be completely wrong. I could be completely wrong there. He could have had a Cockney accent. I don't know much about Hannah Rocks per se. But I do think that was just to give that, you know, cliche sort of, you know, he had a Cockney accent. He's a British guy. They just made a point of it. I think that's all it was.
Yeah, I was going to ask people in the comments, actually, if anyone's from the US... do you all think we talk with a Cockney accent? I guess it's like if we were to if someone said like do an American accent right now, we'd probably go for like Deep South, right? Like I know I would. Not to say that obviously everyone in the US doesn't talk like that. Everyone has their own regional accents, but it's just something I've always found funny. If you watch any comedy show, they always say like, "Oh, British." Oh, yes. It's either really posh or Cockney. There's no in between.
Yeah, accents are a funny thing. No, Douglas Booth is British. He's British. He's the British one, isn't he?
Yeah.
He because he obviously nailed the American accent and everything. So I mean, yeah, no, accents are a funny one, aren't they? Like, you know what I mean? Depending because obviously he was Razzle was the only British guy in it, so they had to portray him to be British as you know him. Whereas if you get an American, just the American guy in it. So say this was a movie about the Beatles, then they had an American guy come over, he'd have a very strong American accent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's probably just one of them.
I'm trying to think of anything else I can say about this movie.
I do think it's fun though. Overall, I do think it's one of those things. If anyone was to watch this and say, "Should I watch it?" I do think it's a very fun watch, whether you're a fan or whether you're not a fan. Because if you're not a fan, it's sex, drugs, rock and roll. It's a fun thing. Whether or not you like Mötley Crüe, it's fun and it's funny. It's not just something of I don't like Mötley Crüe, so I won't like it. No, it's actually funny. It's I do that after saying that. The fact that it's only an hour and 40 minutes gives it that push now. It gives it that push that if you're not a fan, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to like it. You might even find yourself a fan afterwards. If you are a fan, it is fun. It is funny. It is something you should definitely at least watch once.
It's not a long sit. As we said, like an hour and 40 minutes, like everyone can pretty much find time to watch that. I do hope it brings new fans in. In terms of my overall opinions, was it as good as I was hoping for? No, I would probably liked a lot more substance in it, maybe a lot more stuff that was in the book obviously wasn't in the film, which was a shame. Did I have a good time watching it? Hell yeah, I had a good time watching it. Like it was, and that's what I feel like I'm going to say about a lot of these music movies. That's what I said about Bohemian Rhapsody. It's what I said about this, and it's probably what I'm going to say about Rocketman as well, in that they have very much found a formula with these movies. Now, I do think that that's a formula that, and we talked about this in our trailer reaction, I think it's going to be a formula that is going to wear out its welcome very, very quickly, because inherently you're making exactly the same movie. You're just slapping a different skin on it, adding a different soundtrack to it, and passing the same product off. It's like the Marvel movies, right? Like most of the Marvel movies, you know, if it's not Winter Soldier, if it's not Civil War or Infinity War, most of the in-between Marvel movies are exactly the same fucking movie, just with a different superhero as the main lead.
It's like anything, though. It's going to get done to death until it fails. You know what I mean? No one's going to stop making something if it's still making money. So, like, it's, for instance, Marvel, I don't watch a Marvel movie anymore because I can't stand them. Like, I don't. But everyone loves Marvel. And the thing is, Marvel is not going to die and stop watching movies until it actually dies, until people stop. So it will never end on a high, I don't personally think. You know, it's like the same for it. They will never end on a high. But at the end of the day, it's just fun. It's just funny. You know, I mean, that's what life's about. Life's boring. So you want a bit of fun for a bit. We had fun for an hour and 40 minutes. And now we just go back to our boring lives. You know, that's life. That's what it's about.
Now, would I watch this movie again? If I was with a group of people and they said we're going to watch The Dirt, I wouldn't object to it. On my own, though, I tend to be like this with movies now anyway. They all tend to be a one and done for me, which is a shame. Like, I miss the days of like loving a movie so much that I would go back and repeat viewing, and I do on occasion, but I don't know.
There's a couple of scenes I'll sit down and watch. I've already watched one of them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple of scenes I go, that's funny, let's watch that.
I think when they get scenes on YouTube, this is going to be one of those movies where you go, oh, I want to watch that particular scene again, whether it's like a 30-second scene or a 2-minute scene or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, it is funny, and especially the beginning of the movie opens really well. And from when they opened, I sat there thinking, it's really promising. I'm really looking forward to this. Rather, you know, you do get some movies, it's like anything, you make your first judgment of the person in the first 5 minutes, you make your first judgment of the movie, you know what I mean? Like, whether or not your judgment's right by the end, you make your first sort of, I think it could end up like this, and I did sit there and think, this is going to be great. You know what I mean? So it does start really, really well.
Don't expect these music movies to go anywhere. I mean, we've got Rocket Man coming out relatively soon, I think is that May that comes out, I think. You know, we're probably going to have a David Bowie movie. I think that Peter Jackson's talking about possibly doing a Beatles movie. There'll be a Michael Jackson movie. Everything. They're just gonna do. It's marketable. You know, like people will see it. Everyone's going to be a particular fan of a certain band, so it will guarantee a certain large enough fan base to go and watch that movie or watch it a bunch of times. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much everything we can say on The Dirt. I don't think there's any other things that are jumping to mind to talk about. So I guess we'll round off. So that will do it for our review on The Dirt. And I'm not going to give the full title again. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of this movie. Appreciate everyone in the comments jumping on today. You guys have been great. And in terms of what's coming up on the channel, as some people have already commented, I am the furthest behind with trailer reactions that I've ever been in my life. I probably have close to about 20 trailer reactions to do. I've already pitched this question in the comments now. Would you guys prefer separate videos, which would take longer, but it would be the usual format? It would be me talking for probably 10 minutes per trailer, really going in depth into it. Or would you like just one big, you know, live stream hangout one afternoon where I'm probably live for about 3 or 4 hours going through all these trailers, chatting with you guys? But obviously that's going to be one video. So I'm going to pass that over to you guys. Which do you think is the best? And also let us know which music movies you'd like to see. Which are some of your favorite bands, and which would you like to see if they got turned into a movie? Van Halen, yes.
That would be great. Will never ever happen because they don't do anything anymore. But that would be the best.
Oh, I said this in the movie though. Like, there's a bit where they mention Dokken, and Dokken are one of my favorite bands. They're never going to do a movie on Dokken. It's like never going to happen. But
who wants to see Don Dokken anymore? Who wants to see Don Dokken?
Right.
Who wants that at all? I'd rather see, you know. Okay, I can't think of a comparison, but I'd rather shoot myself in the head. But yeah.
But I said, like, how sweet would it be? Like, maybe this isn't going to be sweet because, like, every single movie franchise is doing this now. If we got a music movie cinematic universe, so from this movie they spin off and do a Dokken. We had David Lee Roth in this movie. Cast the same guy and do a Van Halen movie.
I think that is a very good, like, that. I think that the thing is, that's a very good idea, but I think it's a very good idea that people aren't going to notice. You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing that people like us who go, oh, that's so cool, that's so amazing. But then again, who thought, you know, oh, Disney, Final Fantasy, that goes so well together. Then it became a big thing. So
and Kingdom Hearts, fantastic. Yeah,
exactly.
So Bruno Mars. Would you go and see a Bruno Mars movie?
Do you know what? If they make a Bruno Mars movie, I will go. I'll go see a Bruno Mars movie. Just
bit of Uptown Funk you up.
Yeah, that's literally that song alone. That is why I would go and see a movie. That song alone. I would. Yeah, I'd go see an Eminem movie, something like that. You know, that'd be fun.
There was 8 Mile.
Yeah.
The sequel, Ninth Mile.
Yeah,
the extra mile.
Oh yeah, they had Straight Outta Compton, didn't they? I forgot about that movie as well. Yeah, so
There's
are.
Been a few.
Yeah, they're okay. I've forgotten about some of them, but yeah, no, there's a lot you can go and see, and I do think also once you've seen one, because of the formula as well. Once you've seen one, I would say push to see, like, say for instance, you like Mötley Crüe, you've seen Mötley Crüe, you like Queen, you've seen Bohemian Rhapsody. Then maybe push yourself to go and see Straight Outta Compton even if you don't like that thing, because if you like the formula of it, you go, actually you will enjoy that movie. So it's another, you know what I mean? It gives that sort of thing to it. So
someone's just written, we'll round off in a second. Someone's put, they want to censor Rocket Man in the UK, but not the US. They better fucking not. I think that Bohemian Rhapsody was a 12, Rocket Man's a 15. So there might be a little bit more leeway there to go into some of the, you know, like the debauchery stuff and the substance abuse. They're just kind of the same movies, really, aren't they? That's just most bands: substance abuse, rehab, breaking up, feuds, and then getting back together. As I said, it's going to be
give it 10 years. It'll be a new thing. There won't be it won't be music movies anymore. Like it'll be a new thing. It's like every decade has its thing, you know.
Yeah,
but
they're
good.
One thing that's interesting though with Rocket Man is that it's the same director as Bohemian Rhapsody. Technically, Bryan Singer was the original director for Bohemian Rhapsody. Certain allegations surrounding him. Allegations have been going for ages, and then he fell out with Rami Malek and a lot of the cast, and he just didn't turn up. So they get Dexter Fletcher in. He finishes off Bohemian Rhapsody, but he's also doing Rocket Man. And visually, like, they look like the same movie, like, for all intents and purposes. So, but I did hear that when Freddie Mercury, it's either before he went onto stage for Live Aid or when he came off, he bumped into Elton John, and Elton John like congratulated him. So it's the same director. He's doing an Elton John movie. Like, let's get the cinematic universe going. Let's get those post-credit scenes going. Yeah. But
that would be a good idea. that would be fun. But again, it's one of those ideas that we always like. For instance, Batman. We always knock up loads of ideas. Go, that'd be great. That'd be great. That'd be great. Never going to happen, but that'd be great. You know what I mean? It's another one of those things. So it is a good thing to talk about and get thinking about as well.
We should do like a hangout chat sometime just about Batman.
There's so many ideas we've had that we go, that would be great. Like, yeah, just so many.
Like, we should have recorded, like, we had a phone call like a couple of days ago. Like, I was on the train traveling and you called me up and we just randomly got onto the topic of Batman and we did like a whole Batman retrospective over the phone. Like, we talked about Keaton Batman, the Schumacher ones, the Nolan ones, you know,
and the sort of cameos that
the Schneider ones,
you know, what I mean? And the whole like Keaton could do a cameo here, and that'd be like, oh, that'd be really cool. Yeah, that's the other thing as well. I would say. I mean, I know it's not really relevant to this, but I do think the forums and stuff are really good for it. So like, let the fans make a movie. I mean, okay, you know, that's a long, you know, let the fans make a movie, but you know what I mean. I do think there are some things where the fans their input would really be a good thing. I know fans get input in a lot of things, but there are certain things comic wise as well, for example, that I know a lot of people as well, their input is, you know, should be looked at a little bit more. I don't know if that's, you know, just something that, say a load of directors watching this going, yeah, bullshit, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, we do that enough. But I do think there are certain elements, but depends which
fan you talk to, because some will go, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this explosion happens. Whereas some would be more.
And it depends where you are in life as well. I mean, obviously they've got the job of directors. They go, yeah, but we can't do that because of this. But then, you know, you need to like combine as well. So like, you know, there's loads of ways everything can go, and that's I guess the beauty of the movies as well, and that's the beauty of books and movies and everything. There's loads of different ways, but again, that also means that there's going to be critics on this, and you know what I mean. So.
And if we're talking about DC critics, that's a whole other subject in and of itself. If you want to see DC critics, pretty much just go on to any review of mine where I've talked about a DC movie.
I'd still happily sit there and watch every DC movie through a site and not watch any Marvel movie again. I would still happily do that.
Even Batman v Superman?
Yep, happily sit there and watch that rather than watch
for 3 hours.
Yep, we'll watch it twice rather than watch any Marvel movie ever again. I would still do that. I am firm on the fact that I do not want to see any more Marvel movies.
I couldn't do that.
I am firm on that. Then again, I mean, Infinity War, I didn't see, So everyone's gonna.
Infinity War was great. Like
Yeah.
I've seen that movie about 5 times, and I'm waiting for it to get old, and it hasn't
That's
got
the thing.
old yet.
Everyone's probably gonna look at this and go, "But you haven't seen Infinity War. You don't have a clue what you're talking about." Which maybe that's true. Maybe it's fantastic. Maybe I'll get around to watching it one day. But all I'm saying is DC not as bad as everyone makes it.
Okay, there you have it. So that'll do it for our review on Marvel versus DC. No, we definitely need to talk about DC at some point, man. Like, just even if it won't be a review on anything, we'll just have a general chat because we pretty much on a daily basis do that anyway, which is always cool. But yeah, so final goodbye. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for all the comments. You guys have been great. And it will probably be a trailer reaction. I know that I need to also do a review for Captain Marvel. I saw that last week. Us is out this weekend. Dumbo's out the following weekend. I'm like so backdated with stuff right now. It's absolutely insane, but I'm going to try my absolute best to get all of this stuff out within a timely fashion, which I haven't been very good with so far. It's going to happen. Stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button. A lot more movie content coming out, and I'm going to try and get it all done and out to you guys. So thank you for sticking with the channel, and until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.